Hello and welcome everyone. It's Feature Friday time again, and today I'm really excited because Pinterest everyone's favorite channel, favorite platform? I think the answer is clearly yes, and I'm also very excited because today Leah Garcia, one of the savviest Pinterest gurus out there. I call her guru, maybe that sounds very old. She's not that old though, but she does know a lot of stuff Pinterest wise. So she's going to share her knowledge today, and I have a list of questions from you guys, from other people out there who messaged me. So I'm very excited that I can now talk to her about this, and feel free to comment below anything you want to know about Pinterest. But a quick heads up, I talked to Leah beforehand and we decided, since I think many people in the group, or most people in the group, are already on an advanced level. So you probably have been blogging for quite a while and you already know that you need beautifully designed pins, you need to have a wonderfully descriptive bio and all these kind of things. So if by any chance we are too advanced today, that's on purpose because we don't want to bore you. I got some feedback from one of the subscribers of my email list, and she said it would be great to have just a little more, and I get it. I mean, we've been in the game for quite a few years now, so let's take advantage of someone who can actually give us some advanced insights. And now I'm adding Leah. Yes, I'm started. She is on her way. I see that she's trying to come in. And I can, there she is. Hello. Hello, wonderful. Again, thank you so much for joining me today, joining us. Leah, it's great to have you. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Sorry, I'm just tripped out by how close on my face this is. It
Oh
was
yeah,
not there a second ago.
I'm actually quite relieved because I think I'm filling out the screen too.
My head
I
is
don't know.
large,
I,
so.
that's fine. We're both like in your faces. So watch out, people. Oh gosh. Okay, before I get too far, I don't know if you heard my introduction. I said we're gonna skip the beginner stuff. I call it this way,
Fantastic.
but maybe just to get into the mood, and you can maybe touch a little few some basics that you think that are worth mentioning for some people who just to remind us all. I mean, I said it before, the bio needs to have keywords.
Mhm.
Beautifully designed pins are key, obviously. Is there anything else, like a few basics before we cut the cheese?
Absolutely. Let me just quickly cover the 5 most important aspects of a beautifully converting Pinterest profile. So, you already touched on the profile itself. That's definitely really important because it is the foundation. So, visitors to your profile are going to have a split second to decide if they want to follow you, but more important, your profile is going to have a lot of information on it that the Pinterest algorithm will actually be picking up to determine whether or not you're a high quality user. So things like having a profile photo that conveys your niche and your brand succinctly and a really clear image. Your title and your description, as you mentioned, should be stuffed with keywords that are relevant to your niche. You should have boards representing anything that your site covers. So if you're a travel blog and you write about hiking, you want to make sure you have a board about hiking, and you want to have a board about each of the destinations you write about. So that's really important too. And then you want to just, beautify it up with like a cover photo and the little slider that has your most beautiful boards. And that's really all about just having that nice foundation. The next thing you want to make sure you have is quality content. So here I'm talking not about the content from your site, but I'm talking about curating other people's content. So your role on Pinterest as a content creator is also to be a content curator for regular pin users. So you want to be regularly posting other people's content to your boards to delight your audience, right? So they're following you because they're interested in your niches. So if you're an expert in travel in Germany and you have a travel in Germany board, you want to be regularly showcasing the best content about travel in Germany that you can find, even if it doesn't link to your site, and posting consistently and regularly and curating excellent, beautiful, eye-catching content is going to send messages to Pinterest that you're a fantastic user, and they're going to boost you in their algorithm as well. The next thing you want to have is organic engagement. Go ahead.
I quickly have to interrupt you there because
Yeah.
this leads me to a question. There's so many, or there's one very popular thread, like this share thread on Mapping Monday for travel bloggers. I'm sure you know that one too. And
Yep.
would you recommend joining these massive share thread, how do you call them, group
The
threads?
Repin threads, yeah. I do think that they're really effective in launching a brand new pin and driving engagement. So that does actually tie into my next little thing, that the number 3 that I was going to say about organic engagement. So organic engagement, engagement is the way that Pinterest essentially evaluates your quality as both a content creator and a pinner and a curator. So it's sort of like, Google uses backlinks, Instagram uses likes, Pinterest uses engagement. So that's clicks, like making it bigger to look at the image, follows, anything that involves engaging with your content. If you've got a brand new pin and you're trying to launch it and get it kind of circulating organically, the repin threads are actually a fantastic way to sort of drive that engagement. It's kind of a shortcut, but Pinterest is actually okay with it. I asked them about it at a conference and they were like, I don't know what you're talking about, but it seems like a good idea. Like they'd never heard about it.
Oh,
Which I
that's
thought was really
nice.
funny. And I was like, ooh, I hope I didn't just give away a secret to Pinterest. My bad. But they were like, no, that seems like a pretty good way to do it, especially if a lot of those people are following you, because your
Yeah.
followers, if they engage with your content early on, like as soon as you post it, it's going to be shown to your followers before it gets rolled out to everybody else on Pinterest. And if your followers engage with it, that's actually going to boost your overall reach for that pin. If your
Yeah.
followers don't engage with it, your reach will be capped. So that's one of the new,
Yeah.
most recent changes that Pinterest has made. So great
Absolutely. Yeah.
question.
Yeah. Awesome.
So the number 4 most important pillar of success on Pinterest is going to be clickable pins. So here I am talking about the content that links directly to your site. So you want to showcase your own content in a way that kind of follows the best rules of design, right? So if you don't have an eye for design, I would recommend using a pre-built pin template. So Canva has great ones, or you could hire a graphic designer to create one for you. I recommend sticking to the same template and reusing it for all of your pins because it's really good for, showcasing your brand. People are going to see it and they're going to recognize that this is your brand. They're going to remember that they like, your content and your site, and they're going to click through. You want to think about your text being really readable. That's the most important thing about your text. It must be readable. So for those of you who are using cursive fonts and you're using it for more than 3 words, it's probably not that readable, especially if you're using it in all caps. Cursive in all caps is not readable. I'm sorry if I'm the only one breaking this news to you right now. So make it really readable. You want to have a visual keyword. So Pinterest is a visual search engine, which means as people are scrolling down, the first thing that they'll notice is your image, which we'll get to in a second. But the second thing that they'll do is they'll take like a split second to read your text. So the first text that they should see should be your keyword, large and clear. Your keyword is going to be the most important visual element to convey what they could find if they're going to click through, right? So for me,
Right.
if I'm writing about a destination, if it's a destination guide, the destination is usually my keyword, right? So if it's things to do in, Los Angeles, California is my keyword. Um,
Yeah.
so that should be really, really big. The next thing so the first thing they actually notice is your image, right? So it needs to be eye-catching. What works best on Pinterest is bright pins. So we're talking about like not dark, unless you're writing about, night skies or like where to find stars or whatever. Try to avoid dark images. You want it to be like aspirational and motivational. So Pinterest is all about sort of inspiring that like warm, fuzzy feeling of I want that life, you know? So you want your picture to convey that. It doesn't need to be like a direct, literal interpretation of what's actually in your content. So it can tie to your content. So let's say that you're writing about something that's like not super aspirational. Like let's say you're writing about like a health issue. You don't have to show like something related to health in your image. You could just show
Yes.
like, here's a picture of a traveler who isn't sick, you know, and like give it the aspirational image treatment.
Yeah.
You want your image to be really clear, high res, beautifully presented. So if your pictures don't look good when they're stretched out or they're not quite vertical or you aren't able to make them work, find a stock image. There's a lot of wonderful free stock image sites. Unsplash is one that I use all the time. You can
Yeah.
even Google
I know.
search or use Flickr to find commercial free images, but those are definitely really crucial.
Yeah.
So the last thing, and again, interrupt me because I just keep going. The
Yeah.
last
No.
pillar of success on Pinterest is going to be consistent activity. So you want to make sure that you're regularly engaging on Pinterest. This is something that has been drilled into us over and over again at their conference and when I've spoken to them in our one-on-ones. You want to be engaging with them either every day is best. So when I'm saying engaging, I'm talking about going online and pinning from your front page or just shooting off a few pins, following some people. But what's also really important as a content creator is to be publishing new content from your site onto Pinterest regularly. So
Mhm.
there's no like exact definition of regularly. I got a couple of answers from different people, but it sounds like once a week minimum is what you want to be shooting for. So whether that's
Mhm.
publishing a brand new blog post and that's going live on Pinterest for the first ever time and they'll recognize it's a new URL, or it could be you making a new pin for an old post and publishing that, or a picture you haven't shared yet that's linking to an old post. Anything that's new content related to your site, you want to be targeting at least once a week for that. And that is, again, one of the things that the algorithm is evaluating you specifically as a content creator. And they know that you're a content creator because you've set up a business profile, you've claimed your website, you've set up rich pins. They have all this data about you, and they're evaluating you in sort of different ways than they would a regular Pinterest user. So you really want to be consistent. I recommend pinning for at least an hour a day as you're growing your Pinterest and sharing
Mhm.
new content at least once a week. So
Okay.
those are
Yeah,
my
that's
those are
good.
my pillars of
Really
success.
good.
So
Okay. Just quickly before I go into the first question that comes from Menorca, because you said that you also share images, so you don't not only share pins but also images from your blog posts.
yes,
Like, is that true?
definitely.
Is that just wanted to double check that?
Yeah.
Okay.
So
So,
there's a little bit of a different strategy, right? So there's kind of three types of pins that will be useful and successful for you. So there's pins that people will click on, pins that people will save, and pins that people will click on and save. So pins that
mhm.
people will click on, it's going to be something that they've got a question that they can only answer by clicking through to your content. So like mistakes you're probably making, or like this one secret thing that you don't know about. It's like those, you know, kind of clickbaity titles, but like done in a way that's, you know, honest and ethical. Things that people will save but not click. So those are going to be in-depth resources that they want to have on hand for later. So like 100 things to do in this place that you're going to go at some point, you know, or the ultimate guide to this popular destination that you want to go to, or images that don't really need you to click through, right? Beautiful images that inspire you when you look at them, quotes and motivational things like that are going to also help you. And these actually benefit you because they help you reach, right? So even though people aren't clicking through, they're engaging with them by sharing them, which is still engagement, and that's going to benefit your reach. And having a bigger reach overall is going to benefit your traffic ultimately. So it
Yeah,
does
yeah,
help to mix in those pins that are meant to be shared far and wide, even if nobody's going to be clicking through to them to your site. And then, of course, the
yeah,
third one is clickable and shareable, which are the best. Those are going to be your viral pins, your favorite pins ever that are going to keep generating traffic for you for years. So it's a combination, right? It's something that people have to click through because they're dying to answer the curiosity that your pin is inspiring in them. And also, they
yeah.
want to save it for later because they're going to come back and refer to it again and again. So that's something like an insider's guide to a popular destination, or this really in-depth travel guide, that only this one person could write to a popular destination. Those are the ones that always really do best for me, is creating content in a way that nobody else can do and advertising that on Pinterest visually, with a little star that says written by a local or written by, an expert or something like that. And then when it's tied to a really popular destination with Pinterest users, and remember, Pinterest users mostly live in the United States. So think of, where do people in the US want to go? Those are going to be most popular destinations, like your New York, your Disney World, your Paris. Those kind of places are going to have more viral potential for you.
Okay. That's useful. I don't know if we have answered now Menorca's question, because she's asking what is the best strategy to share pins if you don't use Tailwind?
Yeah.
Mm,
So that's a great question, and I kind of touched on this really briefly.
yeah.
I have kind of two different pinning strategies. There's growth and then maintenance. So a growth strategy is when you're just starting out, you want to grow your traffic. Your traffic from Pinterest is not at the level that you want it to be, and you want to grow it. I would recommend manually pinning in that case. So not using Pinterest, not using an automation tool at all, literally pulling up your phone, going into the app, going onto your computer and repinning manually. And it takes a lot of work. I recommend about an hour a day, but that is by far the best way to grow, because I don't know what it is. There's something in the algorithm, but they love it when you actually like use your finger,
Really?
like use the computer.
I know.
Um, yeah, so for manual pinning strategy, if you're not using Tailwind, you want to kind of mimic the actions that a Tailwind tribe or Tailwind would do, which is going to be creating a brand new fresh pin, right? So it's going to be a brand new fresh pin from your site that somebody else is sharing. A way to mimic that would be a share thread that is not a repin, right? So those repin threads, that's one kind of engagement, and that's great. But you also want to have lots of people creating a brand new pin from your site to Pinterest, because that's what Tailwind Tribes does. So you can mimic that. There's like an evergreen share thread that you can search for on Pinterest. There's a group for that. I'm in a group called Female Travel Bloggers. They have Blog Post Saturday, which is a share. Actually, it's like a free share every week, and lots of people will pin fresh from your site from that. Or you could even start like a little group of your best, blogging buds, and say, hey, I posted this new, post. Can you all go and just share the pin from my site? So kind of having both of those kinds of engagement is going to be really key. And then group boards. Group boards have recently kind of come under attack because Pinterest came out and said, we see that group boards are
Yeah.
being used as a shortcut for growth, and that's not what they're meant for. So they're cutting back on them. So group boards are not as important, but in my testing, I have seen that they are still beneficial. You just want to be
Yeah.
selective about the group boards that you're in. So if you're in a
How
really
how many do you
gigantic,
recommend? Yeah.
how many?
Yeah.
I would say you want to have at least one group board per niche that you write about. So you really want to be
Okay.
selective and be tailoring your group boards to your niche content. Those are always going to be better than a big general travel group board, right? So like, food and drink travel is going to be better for you than just travel and here's a food pin, right?
Okay.
So be selective and select boards that have fewer people actually pinning to them. Those are also going to be better for you.
Okay.
And then so automation strategy, just to touch on that, that's going to be, your tailwind. That's a maintenance strategy. So once you've gotten to a point where your traffic is something that you're really happy with, but you want your life back because you're spending an hour of your time every day on Pinterest, that's when you go to tailwind, and that's when you start, duplicating the things that worked for you with a manual link pinning strategy with Tailwind or any of the other automation tools out there.
Okay. Once you reached what would you say once you reach how what's the a good number of engagement? Like the
So
or not
for
engagement,
me,
the reach, sorry.
yeah, so for me, there's really not a direct correlation necessarily between reach and engagement and actual traffic, right? Because let's say that you are like a home decor pinner and you share all these beautiful images, but a very small fraction of them actually get clicked back to your site because you're mostly sharing images without text. You will have a much larger reach than I do, but
Yeah.
you're not going to have as much traffic necessarily because it'll be just a different ratio. So it really depends. And for me, what I always go back to when trying to evaluate my own Pinterest success and my strategies is my traffic. That's what I want to have, right? I like reach is great. It sounds, it's a big number. It
Yeah.
sounds really exciting, but what I care about is traffic to my site. So for me, that's my number that I'm looking at, right? When I'm happy with the traffic that I'm getting every day or every month from Pinterest, that's when I'm going to step back. And I did that about a year ago. I stepped back and I stopped spending time on Pinterest and I switched to an automation strategy. And my Pinterest growth, like it stalled, but it didn't go down, right? Like I'm still, right now I'm getting, about 30,000 sessions per month from Pinterest. And when I started my automation strategy, I was getting 20,000. So over a year, it was like a very slow crawl, but I'm happy with it because I don't spend any time on Pinterest anymore. So it works for me.
Yeah. Yeah, perfect. Great. Cool. So let's cover or get into another question that Maya has been asking. So she's been using Pinterest. I'm just reading it out. I'm looking aside aside from you. I've been using Pinterest for a few years now, but really started to focus on it the last 3 months. So she says from my Google Analytics, I have 810 page views and 645 sessions for the last 4 weeks. The month before, I had 670 page views and 480 sessions. Is that growth slow or normal? You just,
So again, it's gonna come down to what your goals are, right? So for
mm,
me, I would say that growth is slow, but for you, maybe it depends. Did you get a chance to spend that much time on Pinterest? Are you just looking for any growth at all? Like that could be a good number for you. So you kind of want to like just make sure that you're growing in general and then set
mm,
your goals and evaluate how quickly that's working for you and whether you're happy with that number or not, and then kind of reevaluate your strategy and figure out what's working, what's not working, and redo that. And that's kind of one of the things I do every month is just reevaluate, re-strategize, and kind of rework everything for the next month.
yeah, okay. And she goes on, but I think yeah, should I repin from group boards more? I think I've read that group boards are slow. No, you just covered that already. Sorry. So we've covered that one. And I have one for you. Do you use and maybe you can explain a little bit this link when you put Pinterest /source and then your domain or your URL? Is that something you check regularly? Does that make sense at all? Is that or do you
I
simply
don't
use?
check it regularly, but it is useful in some cases. So I'll give you an example of a time that it was really valuable for me. I had just published a blog post. It was like 3 in the morning, which is when I always tend to click publish, and I went to share my pin. And I shared it to all of my Tailwind tribes. I scheduled it to my groups, it went out to like 50 different places. I went to sleep. The next morning, I went and I like tested that pin and I realized it was going to my preview page instead of my actual published post, which is a broken link and you can't redirect it. And I was like, oh God, what have I
Oh
done?
no, a
And so
nightmare.
I went, it was like a nightmare. And I like went to my
Oh,
source, domain URL Pinterest source thing. And
yes.
I went and I hunted down every single pin that had been pinned and reported it to Pinterest as having a broken link. And it
Oh my
took
God. Wow.
forever. And it was like doing well too. So it was like getting repinned. And I had like that was the only way that I could find where it is everywhere on
Yeah.
Pinterest and like save myself and relaunch it. So it was awful. So if that
Really
happens to
sucks.
you, and it's happened to me now more than once, unfortunately, I'm learning
Really? Oh
slowly.
my gosh.
Yeah,
Jeez.
yeah.
So it's
But
good to
yeah,
have
it
fallback.
is useful in a pinch.
Oh my God. All right. Let's talk a little bit about keywords again. How do you find keywords? Do you do it in the Pinterest app or do you do it outside in Google Analytics or how do you get them?
Yeah,
How do you
so
see?
Pinterest SEO is a little bit, I mean, it's its own beast, right? Pinterest is a visual search engine, so you have to think about both your visual keywords and the keywords in your title, in your description, in your alt text for each of your pins, and in your board description. Those are all the places that you should have keywords. When it comes to finding keywords for Pinterest, the best source is Pinterest itself, and it's that search bar right up at the top. So just start typing stuff in. And there's no way to know like where to start. You kind of just have to put yourself in the mind of your one of your followers or one of your readers. But it's pretty basic, right? So if you're writing a post about like traveling to California, you might start with like California travel or USA travel or California and see what comes up. And Pinterest will make suggestions for you as you're typing it in. And it'll say, California things to do. And it's like, okay, I guess that's my keyword, and then you put like in your alt text, here's a fantastic guide to all the best California things to do. And it's awkward, but you don't want to keyword stuff. You do want to have it be a sentence in your alt text for your pins. Pinterest is cracking down on keyword stuffing. So the one place you can keyword stuff is in your board descriptions. Nobody reads that. It's just for the algorithm. So keyword stuff away there. But that's how I find them, is just searching.
Okay, but you can keyword stuff in your board description, you just said.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh, I
So
thought you should not do there either. Okay.
from what I got from them at the conference and when I've spoken to them, it's keyword stuffing on a pin is what they're kind of cracking down on. The board descriptions, real people don't read the board descriptions. They figure out what your board is about by the title, and then once they click through, they just start scrolling and they're looking at your content, and your content is going to speak clearly to what your board is about. The descriptions of those boards, that's for Pinterest algorithm to determine what that board is about. And the reason why that matters so much is that when a pin gets shared to a board for the first ever time, when it's brand new content, Pinterest ties together the content from that board and your pin forever. So when you're sharing a pin from your site for the very first time, you don't want to share it to your best of blog board. You want to share it to the most relevant board on your page. So, USA travel or food travel or hiking or whatever it is that's your niche board, you want to share it there first, and you want it to be really clear to Pinterest. This is the subject of this board, this is the subject of the pin, and that's going to carry through for the rest of that pin's life. It's going to have that information kind of stamped on there.
But then in the second step, you would still share it to your general board, like your blog
Eventually,
board.
yeah. Yeah,
Eventually, yeah.
I put it there eventually. First, I share it to, all of my relevant personal boards that multiple niches of my own boards. I share it to my group boards. Eventually, it'll make its way onto my best of board because it's convenient for me to find and for other people to find. But it doesn't go there first because that's not the most important piece of information that I want Pinterest to know. It already knows it ties to my site and that site belongs to me through other ways.
Uh-huh. Okay, good. I found that really good. Okay, great. Have you already mentioned a number? Does it even matter? Like how many pins per day, or do you just say spend at least an hour and how many you get out there, that's fine? Or
So
is
I
it a minimum
recommend,
20 pins per day?
yeah, there's really no exact number. I recommend an hour because it helps people to really carve out that time and commit to it. But you can break that hour up, throughout the day. I like to just pull my phone up and just go into the app whenever I'm like standing in line or whatever. You want to just make sure you're being consistent. And the one thing to avoid is pinning the exact same pin over and over and over again. So let's say you've got a brand new pin that you just created. You don't want to repin it or even pin it from your blog over and over again without anything else in between, because that's going to send Pinterest spam flag and you're going to get flagged as a spammer. So if you're going to be resharing a new pin and you can't spread it out over a few days or so, just make sure you're sharing your pin, you're going to your front page, sharing somebody else's, going into a group board, sharing somebody else's, or maybe you're using a repin thread. Have about 3 pins in between and then share your pin again to somewhere else. And that's going to help make sure that it looks really organic and it's not going to get flagged as spam. The other thing to remember, one of the newer Pinterest changes is that they've sort of started capping the amount of pins that they'll show to your followers that you share in a set amount of time, which they won't tell us, and it sounds like has changed many times. So
Yeah.
when they first rolled out this change, it was 5 pins at the beginning of the day, which starts at like 5 p.m. And it was like really specific. And everybody was like, wait, I'm asleep. That's not what. And Pinterest rolled it
It's not
back immediately, and then declined to give specifics to anybody ever again. So we don't exactly know what the like actual time is or the number cap. But if I had to guess, I would say if you send off like 100 pins in the space of 1 hour, probably only the first like 10 to 20 are going to get pushed to your followers, and the rest are not going to be shown very much. So it's not about volume here, because imagine if you logged into your Pinterest and your entire front page was one person over and over and over again, right? You'd be like, whoa, this person has no life and I don't want to see just their pins. You want to have a variety. So you want to think about spacing it out. I would literally recommend if you can just pick up your phone for 10 minutes multiple times throughout the day and just like send off a few pins, that's enough. But if you
Yeah.
only have, 1 hour to carve out while you're Netflixing, that's the time to like do your repin thread, keeping in mind that not all of them are necessarily going to be seen by your followers as you're doing them, which sometimes, let's be honest, is a good thing. And then, spread your pins out in between there.
Okay, cool. Fatima, no worries at all. If you have to jump off, that's fine. It's gonna be in the video section, so you can watch the replay. She says it's so helpful, so but she has to go.
Oh,
Um,
you're
Thanks for
sweet.
watching and following us so far. But we actually also reached almost to the end. I have a final question, and that is, can you recommend any resources out there, any Pinterest courses or ebooks or anything other than your own that you just recently launched? But can you give an overview of what's out there and what people can read if they wanted to?
Yeah, definitely. So, like you mentioned, I've just fresh, hot off the presses, launched my own course, and I'm
Yeah,
going to be providing a link to that and a discount code for you guys. You're going to be the first ones that get access to it. So,
which is
don't
awesome.
tell Slang Social. So that's obviously the best. But if you want to go somewhere else, one of the other really good Pinterest experts out there is Kate from Simple Pin Strategy. Wait, am I saying that
Yeah.
right? Kate All. So her entire like focus is Pinterest. That is her full-time job. I want to make sure. Simple Pin Strategy Group, yes. So that's her full-time job. She was at the same conference that I was at. I know she has a relationship with Tailwind. So, we're both getting this sort of insider information. We both have connections at Pinterest that we can ask when we have a question. And she does have a lot more time to devote to her group and to her site than I do. So that's definitely a big benefit. And I know she's on top of the changes. I hesitate to recommend other Pinterest experts because there have been so many changes recently, especially in the past several months. The algorithm has just completely changed. And not everybody has necessarily been keeping up with that or has updated their courses or had a chance to go back in and update their information. So, you're going to be getting a course that's telling you information that worked last year and doesn't necessarily work now that the algorithm has changed. And that's just the nature of writing social media courses. Unfortunately, it's going to
Yeah.
happen to me soon too. I'll be outdated too.
Yeah.
So I would say just make sure that it's something that is either regularly updated or has been created recently. One of the biggest ones out there that gets, I won't say her name, but she gets recommended all the time, and she was a speaker at the Pinterest conference. I have not heard good things about her courses, and so I'm not recommending her for that reason. But those
Okay.
two are some good ones. So obviously me, Slaying Social, my
Yay.
course, and then Kate All from Simple Pin Strategy.
Perfect. Awesome. And if you guys want to hear you talk, you're going to be speaking at T-Bex at Finger Lakes, right? That's going to
Yes,
be in a couple of weeks, right? Yeah. So
yeah,
you're going
it's
to talk about this there, and
yes.
make sure you catch her session. As we can tell, you're very savvy, and I'm sure this presentation is going to be also very insightful. So
Hope
cool.
so. Yeah.
This that's your
Yeah,
first
anytime
speaking
you're gonna be at T-Bex
also.
Finger Lakes, come find me. I'd love to say hi.
Yeah. Awesome. Well, great. Thank you so much for taking your time and sharing all this awesome tips and knowledge with us. Um, I think we've reached, well, we've covered many things. If there's anything else, I'm sure people have questions afterwards. I know not many watched live today. I think that's also because of the time. We're just going live, or we went live today. But if ever, I will hit you up on a second part for Pinterest. Pinterest is a popular platform. Maybe you're up for a second round one other
Of
day.
course.
But yeah, for today, this was very awesome.
Good.
Thank you. And
Absolutely.
I'll drop the link below. I mean the discount code for your course, so people can grab a 20% off. Is that right?
Mhm. Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
cool. And that's it for now. If you have final words, do you have final words? Anything else you want to give give
Um,
away?
uh, my final word would just be if you're interested in asking me more questions, you can come find me at Slaying Social. That's my travel blog resource site. So that's that's it.
Awesome. Yeah, drop your link too in the comments so people can find you. And yeah, everyone have a wonderful weekend. Leah, thanks so much for joining. And yeah, see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.